Lifting up our hearts to heaven, let us imitate the hierarchy of the angels.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Glory be to Jesus Christ.
Glory be forever.
So I wanted to talk today about something that I recently just learned. And so I want to begin by having you imagine something, as is my way. So imagine you are at a party, and I know that it might have been a long time since any of you have been, or at a party that's relatively crowded. But imagine you're there, and then as you're walking through, you end up bumping up against somebody, and then you talk to another person altogether. So as you're walking through, you're standing next to somebody, but you're talking to a third person, right? Now, it would be that we tend to think that we are near everybody, but we're only focusing on one person. You might be close in proximity to somebody else who's there, but your focus is directed in one very specific way. In addition, and this is where I'll go next with this, at a party, if you meet somebody new, and they ask you, who are you? And you go to introduce yourself, how do you do it? You begin by generally stating your name, who you are, but then most of us, after that, resort to what we do. Correct? My name is Father Nathaniel. I'm a priest. When I was in college, you generally resort to what your college major is. You don't have a job yet, but you tell people what you're hoping to do someday. And I realize this is that we define ourselves by what we do. We define ourselves by this occupation. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for all of us that is the sole and defining thing, but we tend to use that as a way to ingratiate ourselves to people, a way for people to understand a little bit about us. So, if we are taking this idea of the work that we do to be something that defines us, we have to recognize something else about our lives as Christians. Because liturgy, what we are in right now, literally means work of the people. And so if we're doing a work here, if you have a job in coming here, it's my job, it's my occupation to come here, to preach, to make sure that the services are done, to visit those who need it. But it's also your job to save your own soul. When I go to seminary, they don't teach me to lasso you all and drag you by the neck into heaven. That's not how it works. I give you the tools that you can do that yourself. Because I can't save you for you. And so now, that is your work. That's your job. And if liturgy means the work of the people, you, it wouldn't refer to priests as just people, the plural. So if it refers to work as the people, why is it that we are so comfortable with defining ourselves by our work outside of the church, but we don't actually make the work of the church something that defines us? Right? Because if you think about it, I know it was a little bit of a tongue twister, but if I go around and I tell people that I'm a mechanic, I used to work maintenance in an apartment complex, I did some of that stuff. So if I walked around and told people that was my job, and I used it to define myself, they generally start to think, well, he's a handy guy, maybe he works hard, and whatever else they want to make assumptions about. But if I start by defining myself, to me, not to other people, as what am I first? I am first a child of God. I am first somebody who is working for my salvation. If I define myself by that, then I'm doing the right thing, because everywhere else in my life that will shine through. And it doesn't mean you have to run around the street kicking things over and screaming, I'm better than you, I'm a Christian. It doesn't mean that you have to shake people and say, God bless you. It just means that you're nice to them. It just means that you're a good person. Because you take what you learn here and bring it to the rest of the world. This is how we change ourselves, as we change how we think about ourselves. We change that definition of who we are. And we do this quite literally by prayer. See, your work, because litanies, taken from the same thing, liturgy, means work. And a litany, as I'm saying something, you respond with, Lord have mercy. I'm not doing it alone. And you're not necessarily just saying, yes, we agree with you, Father, keep going, you're doing an okay job today. You are praying with me. It is part of your job to uphold that other end of this two-way bargain. Again, I'm not doing this so that you can watch and I drag you in. You're getting there with me, hopefully. But And I say that for myself. I hope all of you get there, but even if I don't. And I can't claim inception of that one. Metropolitan Gregory uses that line far more than I do. But we do this beginning by prayer. And we learn it here. If you can take what you learn from practicing prayer and working at it in the church and bring it to your private life, then we start to realize how we can define ourselves as being Christians first. We can change this definition of who we are. Because we tend to think of prayer as a material thing, right? We walk in, we do the thing, then we leave. I did the stuff, God. I said the words, I moved my hands, I stood up, I sat down when I needed to. Or we take the entire opposite route and we say that, well, we consider prayer to be entirely incorporeal. We want God to send a lightning bolt down to zap us in the face and say, you did good, you reached me. You picked up the phone the right way, and here I am. Many blessings upon you. But we never connect the two. Because you're not just a soul and you're not just a body. You were made combined both of them. Your soul is not walking around in a flesh prison. God made us to have both of them for a reason. And so prayer is how we begin to do this work of changing ourselves. It shifts. The more that we do it, it shifts us inside. It moves us from being just a body walking around with a soul floating inside of it to being one that is truly the way that it's meant to be, enmeshed together. One that works, one that is constantly near God. And we tend to think as well, and go back to our idea of the party metaphor, that by coming to church, by praying, we are bringing ourselves near God. And that's perfectly fine. Because it doesn't mean that God is ignoring you. So if you are walking through this party, you bump up against somebody else, and you're talking to the third person, the somebody you bumped into is God. And they are paying attention to you, and you are near them, but what we have to work at is making sure that our focus is on them. It's like he's the most important person at the party, and nobody knows who he is. He's probably the most wonderful conversation you'll have there, and unless you actually focus on him, you're going to miss out. This is our way of looking at our spiritual life. We are constantly put into a position, either in our private prayers or in our prayers here at liturgy, or just by coming to church, at being near God. You're bumped up right next to him. But whether or not you are actually focusing on him is what prayer helps us work at. The more that you do this effort, the more that you put in this work to pray, and not just to go through the motions, but to try to actually connect with God. And sometimes all that takes is just telling him about your day, just talking to him. Yeah, he already knows all of it, but he cares, and he wants to hear it. But by doing that, we turn our focus to God, and in return, our soul sort of recognizes this. It wakes up a little bit. Your soul gets excited at you finding the most exciting person at the party. And then you stop being just a person walking around the earth. It stops mattering because you recognize that you are both together. You are a body and a soul. And now, the longer that you do this, the better that you get at it. And it'll take time. It's not a fast process. Nobody has a shortcut to getting right next to God. But the better that we get at this, and the closer we get to God, the more that God bestows upon our souls this ability to see the world the way that we're meant to. If you can imagine right now, you have a pair of glasses on, for those who actually wear glasses or contacts like me. The glasses that you have on are just your body that you're stuck in. Right? That's how you see the world, materially. You see it through those eyes. And then, talking to this most interesting person at the party, he tells you, you don't need those glasses anymore. He can tell. And he pulls them off of your face, and you start to see the world the way that it's meant to. You didn't realize how dirty your glasses were. You didn't realize that they needed a good cleaning. You didn't realize that they were tinted. And then once you are free of that, you realize all the blessings that God constantly bestows upon the world at all times. You realize all the things that you were missing out on because you just couldn't see through that lens. And it takes time. Sometimes we'll pick the glasses up and say, I don't believe you, I'm going to put them back on, and go wishy-washy, and that's okay. But it starts with prayer. It starts with our work. And it starts with us changing our definition of who we are and beginning with the definition of, I am God's child. I'm a Christian first. I am somebody who is working towards salvation. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Glory be to Jesus Christ.
Glory be forever.